Morning brief for the U.S. stock market. It is October 8th, 8:44 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, it's possibly a critical point. Okay, we're processing the weekly update right now, and I left out as much long-term as I could, but it still seemed to be quite long. I got in quite a discussion of where we're going from now into next year, okay? And then what do we expect even for next week and the following week and even the next few days. So in this morning brief, I'm just going to discuss what are we doing going into next week. Basically, I think we got that bottom we've been looking for, short-term to intermediate term. Intermediate's so important that it's an increment of our long-term bull market. I think until the lows of this week or last week are violated, regardless if it's cash or futures or whatever index you're working with, then trend ought to be up. I think we're going up into November. But for next week, I think it should go higher in the next week, but it's quite possible it tops out as soon as Monday, okay, for a level 3 trend. But I do not believe the level 3 trend is over today. Now, I show you in the video a gap created this week in the cash S&P 500, and some of these other indexes have issues like that. They may want to sell it this morning into a level 4 bottom and attempt at least to fill that gap. So they may bring it all the way back to that 100-day average on us. On the other hand, the intraday indicators are oversold. The model's saying you've already completed enough. Maybe they don't want to sell anything. So I think if you see it swinging back up today, especially if it starts swinging towards yesterday's high, it's probably put in a level 4 bottom. It's probably going to be higher Sunday night, Monday. And then we'll have another level 4 downswing Monday, Tuesday, but will it go higher late? We don't know yet. The level 3 trend can top anytime next week. The following week, we're probably going to see a level 3 bottom. Okay, so that's how our zigzags are going. And I think what we're going to see all the way into November is the level 3 uptrends are going to move up more and longer than the level 3 downtrends. And we may see a little bit of a bias on these level 4 interweek swings as well. Now, the market is in a range here that I think was upside resistance targets and now could be support anywheres on the futures from 43.94 to around 43.68, but I can't rule out a bit lower to help fill the gap, get it close to the 100-day average. They may want to test that 100-day average. They may want to fill that gap, and it may be a good thing. We may have to sweat it out, but it may be a good thing to pull it back as soon as possible and get that gap out of the way. But at the same time, the overnight market seems a little unsure what to do, like it's not ready to go down, fill that gap, that it might want to keep going higher. So again, it starts swinging back towards 44.20, yesterday's high or something. I think we want to assume it wants to keep going higher, and it's just not going to pay any attention to filling that gap, okay? Now, what else can I tell you here briefly? Let me zoom over to the daily chart just to see if I had anything else to add into next week. I have created new upside objectives. For the moment, assume that this market should rally into next week to around 44.35 to 44.78 for the S&P 500 futures. I show that in the weekly update with a little greater detail even. I do have a scenario that's low probability at the moment, but if it will take out yesterday's high, we may have objectives for 45.45 on up to 46.17. However, and those are somewhat like the objectives I'm showing on the daily weeklies today in the weekly update. However, that could wait for quite some time, okay? And I'm a little suspicious of it right now unless they sold this down, filled the gap, then put it up above yesterday's high, then those objectives become more interesting to me. But it is something to think about. Somehow, I think this market's going to work higher into November. Just keep in mind that it may have a headwind of how high can it go because of the debt ceiling that has not been fixed. We've only kicked it down the road. And I think this is a relief rally, but it could be another leg higher to record highs even within a bull market, but we're still going to have to deal with that debt ceiling again. And we may deal with it in December. All right, bond prices made a new low for the week. I thought maybe they had bottomed. I'm fine with it. They're trying to come back up right now. I think it can bottom no later than next week for the more important level 1, level 2 trends, plus a level short-term level 3. I'm wondering if bonds won't work higher into early next year, that eventually they're going to start betting on that somehow we'll fix the debt ceiling, and they may bet on some other complications early next year, though, that I explain in the weekly update. in terms of a minor long-term top due sometime next year for the S&P 500. Now, I think the reason interest rates went up again, even after the news of the debt ceiling, was the discouragement of the bond market that we didn't get it fixed. But I think they're going to back off on that and kind of give us a relief rally in bond prices here. That should help the stock market as well. I think their attitude will be, you know what, we can sell those bonds as we get near the next time we have to deal with that debt ceiling. Okay? I have nothing new in gold. It's sluggish. It's doing nothing. Bitcoin's working very well for us, going higher. It may go higher into early next year, even though it will be due for an important setback along the way. Dollar's not doing much for me. It ought to go down, but I don't know how much to trust it. Crude oil, it may well go higher into year end, even though it's supposed to pull back in just the next couple of weeks. And it's just too emotional to figure that one out due to European and China prices and then worries over cold weather. Economy's still on track here. If it wasn't for the debt ceiling, the stock market would have soared. And I'm still long-term bullish, but we got to deal with some important fluctuations now into early next year that could create some sizable setbacks, and we still got to deal with that debt ceiling again. But for the moment, I think we want to be bullish looking into next week. Then we'll reevaluate maybe a little setback, and we're going to see these twists and turns week to week, but I think it's moving higher into November for the U.S. stock market. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. Have a great day. Thank you.